Okay, so let us start with the implementation of the round robin algorithm and a primitive algorithm. So first we will revise our concepts about round robin, how exactly the processes are scheduled using the round robin algorithm. So in this program we have the input as process name. So we will input the name as P0, P1, P2, arrival times as 0, 1, 2 and bus times as 5, 3, 2. And one more input is required in round robin algorithm, that is time quantum. So meaning of this time quantum is that process will either execute for the time quantum, or if the bus time of process is less than time quantum, it will execute for that bus time. Okay, so let us start with the process. So P0 arrives at time 0, so P0 will start executing. So first at time 0, P0 will execute. And as time quantum is 2 and bus time of process is 5, so P0 will execute for 2 units of time, at time 0 and at time 1. Or let us draw this with the help of the Gantt chart. Okay, so P0 is executed from 0 to 1 and from 1 to 2, P0. Okay, the next process at time 1, P1 is arriving. So our timeline, let us name this as timeline. So timeline is now at 2. So in that time P1 and P2 have arrived, but P1 is arrived first. So P1 will execute for how much unit of time? P1 will execute for 2 units of time, from 2 to the 3 and 3 to the 4. Then the time quantum will finish and the processor will switch to next process, that is P2. So how much amount of time P2 will execute? It will execute for again 2 units of time, 5 to 6, 4 to 5 and 5 to 6. P2 will execute. Okay. Then the no new processes arriving in the queue, so that's why we will again go back to process P0. Now it is executed for 2 units of time, that means it is remaining 3 units of time. So we will execute for P0 here, then again we will execute for P0 here. So from 6 to 7 and 7 to 8, P0 is executed. So its remaining time was 3, now its remaining time will be 1. Now 3, its remaining time is 1. Its remaining time is 1. Why remaining time is 1? Because it is already executed. P1 is already executed for 2 units of time here. So that's why its remaining time is 1. So how much amount of time P1 will execute? So P1 will execute for only 1 unit of time. It will execute for only 1 unit of time. So from 8 to 9. Then P2, it is already finished. It is already finished. So we will again go back to P0 and we will execute P0 for 1 unit of time. Okay, so total time, bus time was 5, 3, 8 plus 2, 10. So we have executed the processes up to 10 units of time. Now next we want to calculate the waiting time for each process. Okay, now let us start calculating the waiting time. So waiting time is the process is in the ready queue and it is waiting for some other process to get the processor. So P0 is executing here, so it is not in the waiting state here. P0 is again executing here, so not in the waiting state. Here it is in the waiting state, here it is in the waiting state. P0 is in waiting, P0 is in waiting. Then again it is executing and here it is executing. So if you count this cross, the total waiting time is 3, 4 and 5. So waiting time is equals to 5 minus its arrival time 0 equals to 5. Similarly, if you calculate for P1, let us calculate for the P1. So P1 is not executing here, P1 is not executing here, then P1 is not executing here, not executing here, not executing here, not executing here. And P1 is executing here, but it has finished here, so we will not consider or we will not put a cross here because it is not in the waiting state here. Why it is not in the waiting state here? Because P1 is already completed. So if it is completed, that means it will not be in the waiting state. Okay, so total waiting time is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So its waiting time is 6 minus its arrival time 1 equals to 5. And finally, let us calculate it for the process P2. Okay, can somebody tell me what is the waiting time for process P2? So P2 is not executing here, not executing here, not executing here, not executing here. Then P2 is executing, and it has finished. It has finished here only. So we will count this as a 4 waiting time minus its arrival time, which is 2, equals to 2. So waiting times are 5, 5 and 2. Now turnaround times for these processes. So what is turnaround time? Turnaround time is equals to waiting time plus burst time. So here waiting time is 5 plus burst time is 5. That means its turnaround time is 10. Waiting time is 5 plus burst time is 3. So 5 plus 3, 8. Waiting time 2, burst time 2. So turnaround time is 4. Okay, so this is how the processes will execute. Now we have to implement this. So for implementing this, we will use the array variables. We have used the array variables. Let us first tell me what variables we have used. So for process name, I have used the array as process underscore name of some size. For wait time, for arrival time, I use process underscore arrival time. The name of the variable is arrival underscore time. For burst time, it is burst underscore time. And as it is a primitive algorithm, I have used one more variable for the burst time, that is the remaining burst time. Because we have to keep a track of remaining burst time. In time round robin algorithm or edge primitive algorithm, process is not completed, it is partially completed. So we have to keep a track of how much remaining amount of time that process should execute. So this is the remaining burst time. Then I have used one more array, that is finish array. So if finish array is finished, if process is finished, initially the value of finish array will be a 0, 0, 0. And if process is finished, we will make that value as 1. So if the value is 1, it means the process is finished. If value is 0, it means the process is still in running. Then one more variable I have used, pending. Initially, pending processes will be 3, or it will be equals to n. Let me write this as n. Pending equals to n. And n equals to number of processes. So n variable also is used. Count we have used for keeping track, to keep track of process. So this is a count variable. Now let me check whether I have written all the variables that we have used. And one more important variable is this timeline. So initially time will be 0, then it will go on incrementing in each step. So time variable I use. So time will point to the timeline, at which point the processor execution has reached. That will be tracked by this time variable. Okay, so is it clear? Okay, now let us check what other variables we have used in the program. So as we have explained in the last lecture, we have written a main function here. So main function, we are just displaying the menu. We are using the function as menu first. So menu will display the 1 for round robin, 2 for edge primitive, 3 for exit. Then we have written a switch case here, and for case 1 we are calling round robin function. Case 2 we are calling edge primitive function, and case 3 we are writing for exit. Okay. Now let us check what we have written in menu. So this is a menu of your program. 1 for round robin, 2 for edge primitive, 3 for exit, and then we are reading a choice of from the user in the same function. So this is a menu function. Okay, now after menu, which function we have called in main? After menu function, we have written a switch, and we will be calling this round robin function. So let us check what we have written in the round robin function. Okay, so before going with the round robin, let us check the variable names. So finish array, as I have told you, will check whether the process is complete or incomplete. So if finish value for particular process is 0, that means it is incomplete. And if finish value for particular process is 1, it means that, okay, you can see that the finish value is 0 for each process. Okay, so this is updated, that will make 0 later. Then process name. So process name, we are assigning the different names to the process as 0, 1, 2, P0, P1, P1, P2. Arrival time, we are taking the values of arrival time of the process, burst time of the process, then waiting time. And let me stop this so that values will get cleared. Waiting time, turnaround time. Okay, turnaround time is one more variable that is required. Then average waiting time, average turnaround time. Now I have not calculated this average waiting time and average turnaround time, that you should calculate on your own. Then next is pending processes, remaining burst time, the timeline, and a count variable. Okay, now let us go to round robin. So first we will call the input function, because we will require the input as the process names, their arrival times, their burst times, and other data. So let us check what we have done in the input function. So in input function, we have first asked the user to enter how many number of processes that he wants to execute. So we have scanned that value into n variable. Is it visible program? I think it is visible. So if it is not visible, I can increase the font. So let me know whether it is visible, clearly visible or not. Yes, anyone? Okay, thank you. So first we have asked the user to enter the number of processes, and we have scanned that value into n. Then for each process we have to scan the arrival time and burst time and a name of that process. Burst time, arrival time, and name for that process we have to read from the user. Okay, so for that reason, for each process, that means for I equals to 0 to n, what we are doing, we are assigning a name to the process as I. So name of the process, for first name, the name will be P0. We are just assigning the number, and later we will conjugate P with that number. Okay, so for first process, name will be 0. For second process, name will be 1. For third process, name will be 2, and so on. Then we are asking user to enter the burst time, and we are reading that value into burst time array. Then we are asking the user to enter the arrival time, and we are reading that value into arrival time. Okay, so this much is the input. The same input function we will call in the SJ primitive algorithm. Okay, so that's why I have not read the time quantum here, because SJ primitive doesn't require the time quantum. Okay, so this is the input function. So after input function, what else is required input? We require the time quantum also. So I have specifically read the time quantum value in round robin algorithm only. Okay, then one more thing we have done here, we have declared the pending processes. Pending means the incomplete processes as n, because initially none of the process is completed. Then we will apply some conditions to run that process. Okay, now this loop, for loop, will initialize the waiting time for each process as 0. So initially waiting time will be 0, and finish, none of the process is finished, so we have initialized it to a 0, because the finish array and waiting time array will have some garbage values, and we don't want those garbage values, so that's why we have initialized these two arrays as 0. And then we are writing a loop. So before going to the logic of round robin, let me explain you on the board what exactly we want to do here in the round robin algorithm. What are the different conditions that we should first understand theoretically. Okay, so first condition. What is the first condition? Process should, to schedule that process should not be completed. Instead of should not, it should be must not be finished. So if we are scheduling the process and if it is already finished, then there is no meaning in scheduling that process again. So first we have to check whether that process is already finished or not. And if it is not finished, then only we will schedule that process. So this is the first condition, process must not be finished. Second condition, arrival time. Arrival time of process. Arrival time of process should be greater than time. Arrival time should be greater than time. Why it is so? Because, for example, say, if we take the arrival time for P0 as, say, instead of 0, if we take it as a, let me write in other color, if we take it as a 2, then can we schedule the process at time 0? No, even though it is the first process, but it is arriving at time 2, that means we can't schedule it at time 0. So, what is the condition? Second condition, arrival time of that process should be greater than time. So, if the time is 0, then we have to schedule the process. We have to schedule the process whose arrival time is less than or equals to time. So, this is the second condition. Okay, so these are the two conditions. Process must not be finished and arrival time of process should be greater than time. So these are the two important conditions. Now the round robin algorithm have two cases. It has two cases. So we will consider these two cases. So first case, burst time. Burst time of process is less than or equals to time quantum. And second case, burst time is greater than time quantum. Okay, so these are the two cases. Okay, for example, say if process P1 have the remaining burst time as 1, and time quantum is equals to 3. So how much amount of time should be given to process P1? Whether we should give a time as 3 or we should give time as 1? Yes. If process P1's remaining burst time is 1 and time quantum is equals to 3, then how much amount of time the process P1 should be given? Whether it should be given 1 unit of time or whether it should be given 3 unit of time? It should be given only 1 unit of time, exactly. Okay, so that's why this is the first case. If burst time of process is less than equals to time quantum, then execute, let me write in other color. Execute for burst time. And if burst time is greater than time quantum, so if burst time is 5, and time quantum is 3, so how much unit of time you will give to this process, whether 5 or 3? In this case, you will be giving 3 unit of time. So execute for time quantum. So these are the two cases. What is the first case? Burst time is less than time quantum, execute for burst time. And burst time greater than time quantum, execute for time quantum. Okay, now let us go to our program. So if you understand these conditions, then it is easy to write a program. Okay, now actual logic of this program will start here. Let me write the comments wherever possible. So this we are printing a Gantt chart. Let me write here comment. Initialize, finish and wait time for all processes to 0. Start execution. So here we are actually starting the execution. So first we are initializing the timeline to 0. We are initializing the count to 0. And when this loop will terminate, when all processes will finish. And when all processes will finish, when pending will reach to 0. We are initializing the pending equals to n, and then we are checking the condition whether there is any pending process or not. If there is no pending process, then we will stop the execution. Okay. Now first case for time quantum, remaining burst time less than or equal to time quantum. So this is the first case that we are considering, that burst time is less than equals to time quantum. Okay, so let us check. And second case we are considering here, else if case 2 burst time greater than time quantum. Okay, so these are the two cases. Okay, now in first case, so what conditions we have to check? First condition, process must not be finished. So how we will come to know that process is not finished? By using its finish value. So we have set the initial finish value for all the processes is 0. So, and we will assign the one value when process will complete. So that's why if finish of count not equals to 1 means, or we can write it as if finish of count equals to 0. Either cases or either condition is same. The process of finish 0 asin. Thereafter, second condition is arrival time of process should be greater than a time. So arrival time of process should be not greater than, it should be less than. Arrival time should be less than. I mistakenly written here less than. So if time is equals to 0 and arrival time is equals to 3, then at time 0 we can't schedule this process because it is arriving at time 3. So we can't schedule the process which are arriving in the future. Okay, so that's why the arrival time of the process should be less than the timeline. And one more condition, remaining burst time of count is less than equals to time quantum. So this is the condition that we require. Remaining burst time less than or equals to a time quantum. So these three conditions we have written for the first, that process is not finished, its arrival time is less than equals to timeline, and the remaining time of that process is less than or equals to time quantum. So if it is less than equals to time quantum, we will execute for its remaining burst time. We will execute for its remaining burst time. Now let me check whether we have copied the remaining burst time anywhere. We should have copied that remaining burst time. Yes, we have copied here remaining burst time. Original burst time we have copied into remaining burst time. Okay, so remaining burst time and burst time initially have the same values. Okay, so time plus equals to remaining burst time. Okay, meaning of this is, say process P1 have the burst time as 2, arrival time as 0, and time quantum equals to 3. So P1 will start execution from 0 to 1. P1 will start execution from 0 to 1, and it will also execute it for 1 to 2 because its burst time is 2. Even though time quantum is 3, burst time is 2. So how much timeline will move? It is moving equals to burst time. How much time is moving? It is moving equals to a burst time. And if it had been 4 units of burst time, then how much time it will have executed? P1, it would have executed for 3 units of time. So timeline would have moved equals to time quantum. Okay, so that meaning of that is we are moving a timeline by a remaining burst time because burst time is less than the time quantum. Okay, so as the process have lesser burst time, that means it will immediately complete. So we are decreasing the pending count. So as this process is completed, we are decreasing the pending count. Then as this process is completed, we are making its finish array equals to 1. Its finish value we are making equals to 1. Then the waiting time, then we have to calculate the waiting time for that process. So waiting time for that process will be equals to waiting time minus arrival time, and turnaround time for that process will be waiting time plus burst time. Turnaround time will be equals to waiting time plus burst time. Okay, so waiting time calculation we have written downwards, but here we should know the waiting time, final waiting time is calculated as waiting time minus its arrival time. So here final waiting time we have calculated as waiting time that is calculated minus its arrival time. Waiting time which means the number of crosses minus the arrival time. Number of crosses 1, 2, 3, 4 minus its arrival time. Okay, so that is the formula here. Waiting time of count equals to waiting time minus arrival time. Then turnaround time is equals to waiting time plus burst time. Okay, so this is the straightforward formula. Then here we are printing the Gantt chart. This is for print Gantt chart. Here we are completing this process, complete process, and declare as finished. Okay, so here we are printing a Gantt chart. Printing a Gantt chart means we have to print it like this: P0, P0, P1, P1, P2, P2. So which process is executing here? The process executing here is the which is indicated by the count index. So for the remaining bus time, we have printed just a name of the process. Then next, we are here calculating the waiting times. Okay, so how to calculate the waiting times? So we have to calculate the waiting times if P0 is executing here. If P0 is executing here, so what should happen? We should increment the waiting time for P1 and P2, because P1 and P2 is not executing. So we will assign 1 unit of time here, 1 unit of waiting time here. Then P0 is again executing here, P1 and P2 not. So we will increment the waiting time for P1 and P2. Then P1 is executing here, that means we will not increase the waiting time of P1, but we will increase the waiting time of P0 by 1 and waiting time of P2 by 1, like that. So what we have done here in calculation of the waiting time, this loop we have written for all the process. And if I equals to count means executing process. जर process execute होत असेल तर तिचा वेटिंग टाइम इन्क्रीमेंट करायची गरज नाही, बरोबर आहे का? जर तीच प्रोसेस एक्झिक्यूट होत असेल, म्हणजे इथे P0 एक्झिक्यूट होते, तर आपण P0चा वेटिंग टाइम इन्क्रीमेंट करणार नाही. कोणाचा वेटिंग टाइम इन्क्रीमेंट करणार? P1 आणि P2चा. इथे P1 एक्झिक्यूट होत आहे, म्हणजे आपण कोणाचा वेटिंग टाइम इन्क्रीमेंट करणार? P0 आणि P2चा, P1चा नाही करणार. ओके, सो दॅट्स वाय व्हॉट वी हॅव रिटन इफ आय इक्वल्स टू काउंट. म्हणजे काय? जर एक्झिक्युटिंग प्रोसेस असेल तर आणि ती कंप्लीट झालेली नसेल तर, आणि ती कंप्लीट झालेली असेल तर, जर एक्झिक्युटिंग असेल आणि कंप्लीट झालेली असेल तर वेटिंग टाइम इन्क्रीमेंट करायची गरज नाही. प्रोसेस कंप्लीट झाल्यानंतर वेटिंग टाइम आपण इन्क्रीमेंट करत नाही, बरोबर आहे का? इथं कोणती प्रोसेस आहे? वी आर कॅल्क्युलेटिंग द वेटिंग टाइम फॉर P2. So we have considered this, this. Then P2 is completed here, but we are not considering this, and this, even though P2 is not executing here. Why? Because P2 is already completed here. So if it is completed, then there is no requirement of incrementing the waiting time. So what is this condition? This condition is saying that if process is executing or it is completed, don't increment the waiting time. Means continue. So it will go to the for loop again. And if it is not the case, that means if process is not executing and it is neither completed, then we will increase the waiting time. So waiting time कितनी increment होना रहा है इथे? It will increment by the remaining bus time. Remaining bus time म्हणजे as much time process is executing, for that much for that much amount of time we are executing this process. Okay, so this is the calculation of the waiting time. Okay, now once a process is finished, its burst time will be a 0. Process finished झाली तर त्याचा burst time, remaining burst time काय राहील? 0 राहील. So we have declared the remaining burst time as 0. So this is the first case. Second case मध्ये काय आहे? Time quantum is greater than the remaining burst time. So we have again written the same conditions. Process is not finished. Arrival time is less than equals to time, and remaining burst time is greater than time quantum. So in this case, timeline will increase by a time quantum. Previous case मध्ये timeline कशाने increase केली? Remaining burst time ने. Now here timeline will increase by the time quantum. Then remaining burst time will decrease by time quantum. So if the burst time of process P0 is 5, and if it is executed for 2 units of time, that means time quantum equals to 2, then its remaining burst time will be 3. So how it is remaining burst time is 3? So it is equals to burst time minus time quantum. So that we have calculated here, remaining burst time of count equals to the remaining burst time minus time quantum. Minus equals to means this variable minus this, and assign the value again to this variable. So you might be knowing that C concepts about minus equals to, plus equals to, and so on. Okay, so up to this we have completed. Then we have increased the timeline. Then we are counting the waiting time. So for calculating the waiting time, what is required? The process should not be in the execution and it should not be finished. So we are checking if process is in the execution or it is finished. We are not doing anything. But if process is not finished and if it is not in the execution, we are increasing the time quantum. We are increasing the waiting time equal by a time quantum. Okay. And then again we are printing the Gantt chart here. Okay. And then we are incrementing the count variable. So count variable कसे increment झालं पाहिजे? So count variable value should increase like this: 0, 1, 2, and again it should not go to 3 because we have only 3 processes. So again it should start from, after 2 it should start from 0, 1, 2, then again 0, 1, 2, like that. So for that reason we have incremented the count equals to count plus 1 mod 3, count plus 1 mod 3. So initially it will be 0, then it will be 1, then it will be 2. When it will reach to 3, at that time 3 mod 3 will become 0. So again it will start from 0, 1, 2, and so on. Now let us check the output. Once you get the output, at that time your concept will be clear. So my program name is GCC scheduling.c, a.out. First is round robin. Enter the number of processes, say 3. Burst time for process P0 is 5. We will input the same example. Arrival time is 0, burst time is 3, arrival time is 1, burst time is 2, arrival time is 2. Time quantum 2, that we have considered. Now let us check the Gantt chart first, whether it is correct or not. So it is starting from P0, P0, and in our example P0, P0, P1, P1, P2, P2, P1, P1, P2, P2, and then P0, P0, P1, P0, 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 P1, P0. That means the program is executing the processes in the expected order. So as it is executing in the expected order, we will getting the waiting times and turnaround times correctly. So what is the waiting time that we have calculated? 5, 5, and 2. P0 5, P1 5, and P2 2. P0 5, P1 5, and P2 2. And their burst turnaround times as 10, 8, 4. 10, 8, 4. Okay, so program is correct. Program is correct. Now let us go for the SJ primitive with the same example, or let us first solve this example. for the HJF primitive. SJF primitive. Processes are P1, P2, sorry, P0, P1, P2. Arrival times 0, 1 and 2. Waiting times. Waiting times are, sorry, waiting time is not input. What is the input? Burst time. Burst time is 5, 3, 2. Okay, now in HJ primitive there is no time quantum. There is no time quantum. So how execution will be? So first unit of time, let me draw the Gantt chart. At time 0, which process will execute? P0 is executed. Even though it is a shortest job first primitive algorithm, as only one process is in the ready queue, we should execute that process only. So P0 will execute. Then time is becoming equals to 1. So at time 1, P1 is arriving. Now its remaining burst time is 4. P0's remaining burst time is 4. And at time 1, at time 0, we have P0 only. At time 1, one more process is arriving in the ready queue, that is P1. Now we have to apply the HJF criteria, shortest job first. So which one is the shortest? P1 is the shortest. So P1 will execute for 1 unit of time. So its remaining burst time will be 2, and at time 2, new process is arriving in the ready queue, that is P2. Okay, now again check the remaining burst times 4, 2 and 2. So which will be executed? Again P1 will be executed because it is the shortest one and arrived first. So P2 will execute, sorry, not P2, which one? P1. P1 will execute here. Zero to 3, then its remaining burst time equals to 1. Again P1 is the shortest, so P1 will execute from 3 to 4. Then out of these two processes, now this is finished. So now we have two remaining processes, P0 and P2. So which one will start executing? P2 will start ultimately because its burst time is shorter. So P2 and P2, 5 to 6, and remaining is P0, 6, P0, P0 and P0, 6 to 10, 7, 8, 9. So this is the execution of the processes. Okay, now let us check whether our program is working correctly or not. So enter number of processes 3, burst time for process P1, first process is 5, its arrival time is 0, burst time is 3, arrival time is 1, burst time is 2, arrival time is 2. Okay, so now this is the input, and after putting the input, it is giving you the result. Now let us check this Gantt chart. Gantt chart is very important in scheduling algorithms. So if the Gantt chart is correct, that means your program is also correct. So P0 is starting, then P1, 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 then P2, P2 and P0. P0, P1, 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 P2, P2 and remaining is P0. And their waiting times are 0, 2 and 5. Turnaround times are 3, 4 and 10. Okay, now let us check how exactly we have implemented the SJF algorithm. So I will show you the step-by-step execution also of both the algorithms if you are interested. Now we have SJF algorithm. Now let me write the conditions in SJF algorithm first so that you will understand. So what is the first condition? The same conditions. First, process must not be finished. Process must not be finished. The process schedule करायची असेल तर it should not be completed already. Second, arrival time. Arrival time of process is less than timeline. It should be arrived in the ready queue. And third condition, schedule shortest process which are arrived. Okay, now if these two conditions are satisfied, which process we have to schedule? We have to schedule the shortest one, which has the arrival time less than the timeline. Okay, so these are the three conditions that we have to check. Okay, so same things, we have taken the input, the same function we have utilized here. Then we have declared the pending as n. Then we have finished, declared the finish array and waiting time array as 0. Then we have actually started the execution. Now first function we have called is a sort. Now why sorting is required here? Because we have to schedule the process according to the shortest job first. So processes should be in the sorted order. We have to select the shortest process and we have to execute that. So here we are calling the sort function. Then we are writing the loop for the number of processes, and then we are first writing the condition that process is not finished and its arrival time is less than time. Arrival time is less than equals to time. So if these conditions are satisfying, then we are printing the Gantt chart here. So here we are printing the Gantt chart. Then here we are increment timeline. In round robin algorithm, we have incremented the timeline by remaining bus time or time quantum depending on the condition. But here compulsory timeline will be incremented by 1 only. And what will be the remaining bus time? Because each process is scheduled for 1 unit of time in round robin. Its remaining bus time will be -1. Then we are calculating the waiting time here. Condition is same. What is the condition? The process should not be in the execution and it should not be completed. So if it is so, we will increment the waiting time. Otherwise, we will just continue. Now, if remaining bus time of that process is equals to a 0, that means if process is completed, then what we will do? We will decrease a pending array by 1. Then we will declare that this process is finished. We will calculate final waiting time. We will calculate final turnaround time. And here we will break, because for each unit of time, one process should be scheduled. And after scheduling a process for 1 unit of time, then what we have to check? We have to again check which one is the shortest. So for that reason, we have to start it again from sorting function. So again sort and then schedule the shortest process first. Now let us check what we have done in the sort function. Sort function. So in sorting a function, it is not only required to sort the processes according to the remaining bus time. So we are sorting the processes according to the remaining bus time. But we are swapping the original bus time, we are swapping the remaining bus time, we are swapping the arrival time, we are swapping the waiting time, and we are swapping the process name, and we are swapping the finish array as well. So these many swappings are required. So instead of the simple array variables, if you have used the structure, then it would have saved the number of lines of code. But initially I had started with the array, so I have kept the array. If you want to go for the structure, the program will be easier and the number of lines of code will be less. So why this swapping is required? We have to sort only the remaining bus time, but we are swapping all the values. Why it is so? Because when we are swapping the this remaining bus time, at that time its arrival time, we have to swap this complete record. This record should replace with this record should replace with this. Because only swapping, जर तसे केलं तर काय होईल? जर असं सॉर्ट केलं तुम्ही without swapping the other values, 5, 3 and 1 आहे. The remaining the bus times of processes are 5, 3 and 2. Am I correct? So what will happen? This 2 will come here, this 3 will come here, and this 5 will come here. So what happened here? The P2 whose bus time was originally 2, now its bus time is 5. and P0 whose bus time was originally 5, now its bus time is 2. So, and its arrival time originally for bus time 2, the arrival time was 2, but now it has become 0. So for that case, instead of swapping the individual values, you have to swap the complete record. You have to swap the complete record. So for swapping a complete record, we are swapping all the values along with the remaining bus time. Okay, so this is the sort function. Okay, I will share the PDF of this program with you, because understanding this program have how many lines of code? 214 lines of code. It is not that difficult, but yes, it is very much logical to understand. If you start writing a program, ultimately you can understand it. Okay, now only how much time we have? We have enough time. So I will just show you the stepwise execution of the round robin algorithm. And HJEP algorithm you will study on your own, stepwise execution. So after the input, I will start the breakpoints. Breakpoint means it will wait, or it will show you the stepwise execution of this program. Okay, so these many breakpoints we have added, that which required. Okay, now observe here how exactly program is running. So we will debug this program. So if you want to be a good programmer, you should be knowing how to debug your program. If you are able to debug your program, then there is nothing difficult in your learning the programming. So first choice, enter number of processes. So we'll enter 3. Bus time for process as 5. The arrival time for process P0 as 0. Then bus time for process 1 is 3. Arrival time is 1. Bus time is 2. Arrival time is 2. Time quantum is 2. Okay, now the input is complete. Okay, now let us check the stepwise execution. What should happen here? It should declare the finish value and waiting time to 0 for all the processes. Okay, now this is complete. Now let us check the finish array. Is it visible here? The finish array for 0 it is 0, for 1 it is 0, for 2 it is 0. Now we are concerned with the first 3 values because we have 3 processes only, P0, P1 and P2. So we will check only 3 values. So finish array as per our requirement, it has become a 0. Then let us check the other array values. Instead of time, I will write here waiting time underscore time, and check that waiting time values are also a 0 here, 0 here and 0 here. So is it correct? Yes. Then we will remove this variable and we'll instead of this I will write this variable as pending. Important variables only we will check, and this as time. So pending is 3, time is 0. Execute it. Okay. Now finish of I. First process have the bus time as remaining bus time. So remaining bus time for first process is 5, second process is 3, third process is 2. Now we are with the first process. So remaining bus time is 5. So in which part it will go? It will go to the next part. It will not satisfy to the first condition. Let me close this. It will go to the next part, else part. So it has gone to the else part because its remaining bus time is 5, which is greater than time quantum. Time quantum we have entered as 2. Okay. So next, now remaining bus time should be calculated as minus time quantum. So what happened with the remaining bus time? So initially it was 5, now it has become equals to 3. Is it visible? It has become a 3. Check my mouse pointer, it is 3. then timeline should become equals to a time quantum. Okay, so where is time variable? Time variable should be now 2. Let us check. So time has become equals to 2. Then we are calculating the waiting time. Now waiting time, for which process waiting time should be incremented and by how much? We are executing a process P0. So waiting time of P1 and P2 should increment by a time quantum. That means waiting time should be 2 for process number 1, P1 and P2. Here we should get value as 2, here we should get value as 2, and here it should be a 0. So it is the first process. So we have got it as 2 and 2. Am I correct? 2 and 2. Then count will increment by 1. So it will go to the next process, P1. Okay, now P1's, the remaining bus time for P1 is, is 3. So it has not started the execution. So now it will start the execution using else part because time quantum is lesser than the bus time. So remaining bus time for process P1 have become equals to 1 because we have executed it for the time quantum. Then next, now whose waiting time should get incremented? Yes, now I expect the answer from you. We are executing the process P1. So what should happen to the waiting time array? So what values do you expect here? Now these values are 0, 2 and 2. Waiting time values are 0, 2 and 2. And we are executing process P1. That means this should not be incremented. And this should be incremented and this should be incremented by how much? 1, 2, 3, 4. It should be incremented by a time quantum. That means 2. So here we should get 2 and here we should get 4. Let us check whether it is happening or not. So we are getting here 2 and we are getting here 4. And if you continue the same, now we are in the P2 process, then P2 will complete and so on, the P3 will complete and finally we will get the output.